All right. I have here an unfinished Crimson Guitars kit neck. Okay, so I went and grabbed this off the production run, pre-inlays and pre-frets. Needs to do a little bit of sanding, but I'm going to do something particularly cool, I think. All right, so the plan is this. The plan is I'm going to scrape clean the insides of these inlays because you can still see the CNC paths. I am going to gold leaf the inside of each of these trapezoids and flood that with resin and end up with some 3D resiny gold goodness. I'm going to do something incredibly cool and somewhat risky on the inlay, the logo. Okay, we've been an hour or two. This is 2 hour size, and we're starting to get to a point where the gold leaf can be applied. So you're looking for a squeaking size. So it's not quite dry enough, but nearly there. There we are. I think this should work out rather well. What do you think? This is the next day. It's all cured. Scraped back just a little bit, unnecessarily so, really, just so that you guys can see what's happening. Here we go. I think that's going to look stunning in the end. Now, if I pour the resin into these inlays now, it would be better. It would be better. Basically, the plan is this. I am going to put our logo in here. I'm going to cut it out through the entire headstock, so it's a hole, basically. And then from the back, I'm going to carve out to match the live edge of the wood. That will be gold leafed, and it's going to bring the whole thing together. And then I might just, possibly, might. Oh, it's off. Play with fire! Couple of small holes. And I'm going to go through it with a coping saw, jeweler saw, something like that. And yeah, then from the back, we'll do some carving and stuff. Check this out. I love this little thing. Battery on the side. Most useful. Saw. I film and reach. I can't. Woohoo! Success. So this is a fairly coarse, albeit fine, skip-toothed blade. It should fit. Aha, success. Stay. Well, here we go. Yeah, that wasn't the easiest thing to cut through. Fairly thick, but check this blade out. So it's a skip tooth. So two of every 3 teeth are no longer there. You get the idea. The back doesn't look as good, but that's not going to be what we end up with now, is it? Before I get any designing done, I'm going to use a step drill. These are normally used for drilling through sheet metal, but it's very useful if you already have a hole that is a particular size and you want to go down to another size. There we go, I've just opened that up to 10, and then I'll go in from the other side. And now I get a standard 10mm cutter and drill bit. And go through, woohoo. The other way to do this would have been to go from, so it was an 8mm hole, I would go 8.5, 9, 9.5, 10, and just slowly open them up. But this way, I've got the final sized hole and I've got much less danger of tearing out as I go through. He says, let's do this properly. I'm going off the edge of the bench. And running out of battery as well. You're so far away. There we go. I'm really rather happy with that. Okay, so back to the designing. Let me put my 1mm drill bit away first. I sincerely hope this works. Ooh, I need to know where my tuners are first. Come on, Ben, stop talking and start thinking. Tuners. It's a lovely set of very intricately engraved Gotos. SGV510Z-A60LX Luxury Mode. These were a present to me from Mr. Goto himself when he visited Crimson. That is like the guitar builder's rock star's rock star. These are insane. I've been looking forward to using these for a while now. So that's a little close, unfortunately. Keep it simple. Just a single slash through there. I really struggle with taking things too far and then over that line. So let's see if I can be a little bit more restrained with fire and gold leaf. And here we are. It's fairly rough. Then again, that just matches what we're working with. Onto using some of the gold grain enhancing filler just as a backup, just in case any of the gold leaf doesn't quite take. I think that's going to work rather well. How about you? Let me know in the comments below. That's impossible. That's impossible, Ben. I can't do the front and the back at the same time. Poor design choice. Just not efficient. I need to get the resin in the inlays at the very least, but before I do that, I need to burn the neck. So let's go. All right, I'm very happy. I've not done this with mahogany or sapele before, and it's just come very black. I particularly like the two-tone black and blacker effect that we've got there on the logo. That is actually incredibly cool, if I do say so myself. Anyway, I am just going to sand it down to 240, maybe 320 quickly before we move on. The next stage is, I want to gold leaf that, and while that gold leaf is curing, I'm going to resin inside of those. All right, you fantastic people, we are at that stage where, well, basically I'm going to pour resin into these inlays. How am I actually going to do that? Because this is the definition of not level. I love it when tools from my collection become useful. Let me just tape this marking gauge on. If you haven't seen our masking tape and super glue trick before, where have you been? Super glue on one side, accelerator on the other. Wardrobe super glue. Put them together. It acts like double-sided tape with none of the horrible residue, and it comes off very easily. We now have something that is level. Spot on, okay. Back to your spot. We're talking a small amount here. I'm gonna do 50 milliliters. We are again using the Epoxy hardener and resin. So I think I want about 50 mil. This is a total guessing game. How much am I actually gonna need? Probably not even 50. 2 parts resin to 1 part hardener. Double check again, double check again. This is the measure cut bit. 2 parts resin, 1 part hardener. Okay, 30 grams resin. So this is the Epoxy, which obviously worked incredibly well with the guitar body and gave us a beautifully clear pour. It's technically rated for, I think, a 30 mil pour. We did a 50 mil pour. It's absolutely perfect. So I have a pot of warm water here. I'm just going to dip that in and let's see what temperature we get to. And there we go. Just while I was removing that, we've hit 31. So we're essentially a little bit warmer than our target of 30 degrees, which is fine. Which one was it? Not that one. Maybe it was. Okay, health and safety, that was, I should probably just put a label on that saying water. Really. Okay, syringe, because that makes sense. This is cooled down. Now, of course, there is a radius to this fretboard. I'm hoping that the meniscus of the resin will sit up above the fretboard enough that when we file it down, yeah, we'll end up with our radius, basically. This is so cool. So it's just broken over the edge. So the surface tension is putting that in the right place. There's no bubbles that I can see. We're going to crack on. Maybe there was a little bit too much. If I have to recut fret slots, I have to recut fret slots. It's not too much of an issue. There we go. By Jove, I think we've got it. Now the thing is, resin cures with a sort of exothermic kind of thing, i.e. heat. I think I'm right in saying, because I am no expert, but I'm fairly sure it shrinks a little bit. Now obviously this stuff can do with a second pour if necessary. I'm just trying to make sure that it's over. So if it shrinks, we've still got enough. Several things. Because I'm going to be moving this around, I've actually started dripping just off the edge here, which I don't really want. I don't mind recutting fret slots, but I don't particularly want to have to strip back and reburn the neck, so I'm just going to tape that up. I also might be setting fire to this tape in a minute, come to think of it, but hey. So we don't have very many bubbles at all, of course. No, we haven't. And I'm just going to be checking this just to make sure over the next 8 hours or so. 72-hour cure. I'm going to move this over to the other workbench quickly now. I'm going to take the level with me as well, and then we'll see what happens. Hello, camera. So that's a minuscule bit. Needs to be raised up that side just a fraction. And that'll do it. Oh, that's pretty much cured. We need more resin in the back of that. It's going to go through the whole neck. So I need to finish gold leafing inside the logo and then clean it up a little bit so there's still the gap. Okay, this is cured. The gold leaf has done its job. We're going to get rid of as much as possible. We've got a very semi-filled logo here, which is going to be pretty cool. And yeah, with resin, it's going to look amazing. So the plan is, I'm going to put some tape or something on the back here, and then I'm going to flood it with some resin, and we'll see what happens. I'm going to have to put it in a vise or something to hold that nice and level. Spirit level. That works. You enjoying this build? I am. Let us mix some resin and see what happens. We have Epoxy 2:1. I love this stuff. I can't believe how clear a deep pour we got. Mix for about 2 minutes, and I'm going to warm it up to about 30 degrees and see how I've judged how much I need. None of those stringy, streaky bits anymore. That's very well, thoroughly mixed. The bubbles nice and clear. 1 degrees. $30. There we go. We have I have massively overestimated how much of this I needed. All right then. Fire. Bubbles, be gone. And that is all it took. Okay, yeah, this stuff is fun. The time has come. Clear, beautiful, messy. Nope, nothing leaked through. Somewhat of a mess. That's there, okay. Scrape up. Do you know what? This calls for a random orbital sander. I'm going back down onto the factory floor, I think. Okay, so I'm worried about changing, twisting, all of that sort of jazz. I need to check with a straight edge, for one. So, yeah. Measure, measure, cut. I'm getting rid of the excess, just using a leveling beam with 60 grit. I'm gonna have to change the paper on this now. Radius block, 12 inch, and we should get there. 120 grit, let's see how that does. It's very important to hold yourself very carefully when you're using something like this, like a plane, etc., to avoid twisting as you move. Nice. Clamping coil, in vise. It's all nice and solid. The last thing you want to do is, when you are cutting fret slots, especially in a pre-carved neck, the last thing you want to do is do that without it being clamped down and nice and solid. Seriously. So yeah, there we go. Saw. Waha. So Crimson Guitars fretting saw. I don't like chunky depth stops, although there is the option to have one on here. I rather prefer using masking tape, like so. Okay, I'm very, very happy with this. We aren't at full shine or depth. I've gone 1500, 2000, 2500 grit, wet and dry. I've done it dry, which means I had to stop every now and then as the sandpaper clogged up, but the end result is, well, it's getting there, isn't it? Now under oil that should pop. I'm not going to put the oil on until the frets are done though, so let's get on with the frets. Start with a triangular file. All I'm doing here is just opening up the edge. Makes it easier for the frets to go in, safer. Fret bender. And I'm using some Evo Gold fret wire, which will polish up nicely. It's a slightly different color to the gold leaf, but pretty nonetheless. Here's the end. Crimson fret end cutters, going for a full circle. And then I need to put this through the fret bender to get myself a more than 12-degree radius. All right, so we're up to 12 inches, a little bit tighter, pretty much there. Okay, with that in place, I'm going to cut the frets to the required length, and I'm also going to use a fret end nipper. So I also don't want the ends of the frets to be extending out over and making that T-shape sort of thing. I'm going to nip them as if they are in a bound guitar, put them in the middle, and then fill that with ebony dust and super glue, and that will make it look somewhat more elegant than an unbound fretboard. Time to fret. Okay, dead blow fretting hammer. So essentially, what we're doing, with this method at least, is tapping the ends in, and then push it out from the middle in. There we go. Rinse and repeat. So at this stage, fret end leveling file to put the correct angle on, and then I'll finish it with a fret leveling file, bringing everything in, putting an angle on, rounding over the fretboard a little bit prior to super glue. And we're done. Frets in, fret ends rounded over, filled with ebony dust, and looking a lot less obvious. So I'm really rather happy. What should I do the side dots in? I am going to be inlaying brass rod because, well, this guitar is going to be lacquered, so it's not going to tarnish over time. It's going to look nice and shiny, and it will work. I insist. I insist it will work. Well, that works. Yet there is still so much to do.